Warning, the following contains adult content and spoilers. You have been warned. Here is our countdown to the top 5 alleged shocking secrets about the Breakfast Club. And stay tuned to the end for a bonus secret you do not want to miss. Number 5. The headshot that started it all and the panties that stirred controversy. On July 4, 1982, fireworks were not the only thing creating wonder and excitement. John Hughes would also be creating sparks of imaginary proportion with arguably his greatest screenplay ever written, The Breakfast Club. Originally titled The Lunch Bunch, The Breakfast Club, produced by Universal Pictures, is about 5 high school students who befriend one another during a Saturday detention. Allegedly, Molly Ringwald's headshot was a spark of inspiration for John Hughes, although at the time of filming, Molly Ringwald was only 16 years old. In one of the scenes involved a shot that caused Molly Ringwald's mother to step in. The shot was of Claire's underwear. Since Molly, who played the part of Claire, was underage, John Hughes used a female adult stand-in for the racy shot. Despite objections from Molly Ringwald's mother, John Hughes moved forward with shooting the scene where John Bender sexually harasses Claire under a schoolroom table. Molly Ringwald stated in a 2018 interview with The New Yorker that back then, I was only vaguely aware of how inappropriate John's writing was. In what was considered normal at the time, it's hard for me to understand, she said, how John was able to write with such sensitivity and also have such a glaring blind spot. Number 4. Marijuana and coke on set. While some of the rumors out in Cyberland say that the actors were smoking real weed on set, they were actually smoking oregano. In the improvised scene where Anthony Michael Hall says,
"Chicks cannot hold their smoke." That's what it is.
This line comes from Richard Pryor's stand-up routine, who Anthony Michael Hall was a huge fan of. In speaking of scenes containing marijuana, John Hughes said he regretted adding the scene where Emilio Estevez shouts while high and the glass in the door shatters. And as far as coke being used on set, nope, not that coke, this coke. The Coke cans from which the characters drank have a symbol on it from the 1984 Olympics, which were taking place in Los Angeles, California. Number 3. Age is just a number. The Breakfast Club actors, also known as the Brat Pack, were not all under the age of 18 when filming their high school characters. Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall were 16 years old at the time. Molly's character, Claire, was in detention for ditching class to go shopping. And Anthony Michael Hall's character, Brian, was in detention for trying to use a flare gun to commit suicide when it went off in his locker, thus the reason for this shot of his burnt locker in the opening credits. Allison Sheedy and Emilio Estevez were both 23 at the time of filming. Allie's character, Allison, didn't do anything she claimed to be in detention. She just didn't have anything better to do on a Saturday. Emilio Estevez's character, Andrew, duct taped a guy's butt cheeks together in a locker room. And Judd Nelson was 25 at the time of filming. His character, John Bender, was in detention for pulling a false alarm during school. Several other Hollywood actors were considered for the part of John Bender first, such as Nicolas Cage, John Cusack, Alan Ruck, and Jim Carrey were all considered for the role of John Bender before Judd Nelson was cast. Number 2. Method actor pushes limits. Judd Nelson, who played John Bender, is known for his method acting. Method acting is a technique when an actor will continue to stay in character before, during, and sometimes even after shooting. When Judd Nelson auditioned for the role, he showed up dressed in his character, complete with his personal grungy boots that he made by pouring motor oil all over them, along with using his personal switchblade, which were both used in the movie. Judd Nelson never broke character from the moment he arrived to the moment he left the audition. In fact, Judd Nelson went undercover as John Bender at a local high school. Since Nelson came from Ivy League schools, going undercover as the grungy John Bender for a week at a public high school in Chicago was necessary for preparing for his role. Judd quickly learned how a character like his from the wrong side of the tracks would be received in a public school system. Judd Nelson shared this experience in this 1985 interview with Jane Pauley on NBC's Today Show.
And it was great to get the sense of oppression that I think runs rampant in public high schools. Deans in the hallways, hall monitors, principals telling you what to do every second.
Judd Nelson allegedly also went as his character to a laundromat, which prompted some women to call the cops. Nelson used his method acting technique on the set of The Breakfast Club and allegedly harassed Molly Ringwald, making fun of her blind father and touching on other hot-button issues. He teased and bullied her along with other antics, much like his on-screen persona. Ringwald stated in an interview that she knew what Judd was doing and was not fazed by his method acting attacks. Although Director John Hughes was not so tolerant and understanding and almost fired Nelson over it, just before other actors spoke up in Nelson's defense and convinced John Hughes not to fire him. Hughes allegedly said he would never work with Judd Nelson again. Number 1. Let It Snow. Contrary to urban legend, the dandruff that Allison Sheedy shakes onto her pencil drawing for snow was achieved by sprinkling Parmesan cheese. That's right, Allison did not use real dandruff, as accused of doing. She did, however, really eat the sandwich, filled with pixie stick dust and refined sugar, just as it looks in the movie. And in fact, it was Allison's idea to put Captain Crunch cereal in the sandwich to give it that extra crunch sound. Before we reveal our special bonus, if you're finding enjoyment from these amazing secrets, then I'd love to invite you to subscribe to our channel so we can explore more of the 80s together. And now, our bonus secret. John Hughes originally wanted the film to be a 2.5-hour movie. However, the movie was cut down to 1 hour and 37 minutes. Hughes said in a premiere that he had the only complete copy of The Breakfast Club on film. Allegedly, among the cutscenes from the movie were when Carl the janitor predicts where the 5 kids will be in 30 years. Since the film was set in the year 1984, here are his predictions of what would become of the 5 kids in the year 2014. Bender, the criminal, would have killed himself. Claire, the princess, will have had 2 boob jobs and a facelift. Brian, the brain, will become very successful but die of a heart attack due to the stress of his high-paying job. Allison, the basket case, will be a great poet, but no one will care. And Andrew, the athlete, will marry a gorgeous airline stewardess who will become fat after having kids. Is there a character from these 5 students that you connect with most? Let us know who you relate to most in the comments below. And for more great videos from Love My 80s, check these ones out.